And Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro denounced the ties of Washington to the Miami Mafia linked to drug trafficking and corruption in the continent. During his program with Maduro Más, the president stated that this group, led by U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, would lead the White House to the worst possible scenario for Latin America and the Caribbean. He also pointed out that the United States official is leading a psychological and political war against countries in the region. Moreover, the Venezuelan head of state also analyzed Rubio's role in the colonialist plans of the United States for the region. And Venezuela joined the ministerial meeting of Latin America and the Caribbean for the implementation of regional climate action to be held from August 25th to 26th in Mexico City. The Minister for Eco-Socialism, Ricardo Molina, highlighted during the inaugural session the actions framed in Vertex 1 of the Great Mission Mother Earth Venezuela, which contemplates territorial organization around these issues such as the protection of ecosystems and communities, the just transition of the labor force, alternatives to mobilize climate finance, synergies with the 2030 Agenda and other environmental agreements were addressed. Finally, this ministerial meeting of Latin America and the Caribbean seeks to strengthen climate action and consolidate regional positions and define a roadmap with a Latin American Caribbean vision. The Christian evangelical community of Venezuela gathered in Caracas to pray for peace and defend national sovereignty in the face of the recent threats from Washington against the country. Details with our colleague Michelle Ramirez from Caracas.
Religious movements gathered at Plaza Bolivar in Caracas, where they raised a prayer for peace in the country.
The prayer is for peace. The meeting is for the peace of our nation, because apart from God there is nothing, regardless of what other people may do. Here the government of our nation is in the hands of our Lord Jesus Christ.
With songs, hymns, and dances, they remembered that the country has been and is a nation that advocates for peace.
This is a call to the entire international world, that here is a people clamoring for peace in our country, and that it is a people who work for the nation in favor of all, regardless of political party.
During the meeting, various religious leaders, pastors, and activists expressed their support for the government of President Maduro.
We have seen that the North has wanted to rise up against us, against this noble people, holy to God, and we are praying, not only for our nation, but also for the rulers.
Religious attendants reiterated that the people of this country continue to be firm, united, and resistant, and announced a series of meetings and activities for world peace.
En la Cámara de Gustavo Flores, Michelle Ramírez, Caracas, Venezuela, para teleSUR.
In Argentina, the government faces serious corruption charges involving close relatives of President Javier Milei. In this context, Milei publicly admitted that there is corruption in his administration. Numerous Argentine media outlets described the president's admission as the first reference to the corruption scandal that directly involves his sister, Karina Milei, implicated by the then director of the National Disability Agency, Diego Spagnuolo, in the collection of bribes related to the purchase of medicines. These findings have hardly affected the president's popularity, as the stolen money, as he says, was intended for the purchase of medicines for cancer patients, people with disability, and the elderly. And in Bolivia, the court of El Alto annulled the ordinary criminal trial against Janine Áñez for the Sencata massacre, deciding that she should face a trial of responsibilities due to her status as a former president. The judicial decision responds to a motion of exception of incompetence filed by Áñez's defense, which requested a trial of responsibility since the events of 2019 occurred while she was serving as the country's president. The government and the prosecution have stated that since she was not a constitutional president, she was not entitled to a privileged trial. However, the court declared itself incompetent to try Áñez, but clarified that the decision does not imply impunity. The trial refers to the proper course of the process. The decision sparked protests from the victims of the Sencata massacre and led to the interruption of the hearing, with victims denouncing the judge's actions and pointing out that they accepted the ordinary justice process in order to achieve the conviction of those they consider responsible for the killings. And Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro denounced the ties of Washington to the Miami Mafia linked to drug trafficking and corruption in the continent. During his program with Maduro Más, the president stated that this group, led by U.S.